boundaries. So the modernization of Musina, for example, should be complemented with what happens at Beitbridge, or what happens at Beitbridge should be mirrored at Musina, so that we have proper movement for trade, for our people. We therefore welcome initiatives such as the City to City Connect platform at SIDSSA26. We are happy that we have so many mayors, municipal executives, planners, engineers coming together to share ideas about how to build our cities and our communities. Africa does not need isolated islands of excellency. It needs connected systems of excellency. I always want to encourage Africa to take over the world. It is time for Africa to also be jingoistic, but we have to do it. For us to succeed, we have to do it together. We can't do it in isolation. We will have strength in our numbers. Then we have to deal with the issue of finance. We can't achieve this without adequate funding. I'm glad that we have new financial mechanisms that we have been thinking about. We welcome the new development bank, but we also want to see a regional integration in our funding situations. DBSA, for example, can provide funding for infrastructural development in many of the countries in SADC and beyond. Similar institutions have to be reinforced in other countries. I have heard a lot of people talking about PPPs here today, and blended finance, green bonds, municipal bonds, institutional capital, and commercial partnerships to turn infrastructure needs into investable opportunities. We have started utilizing our own local developers who have been homegrown and who now have quite a bit of money. They are becoming a source of PPPs for us. You know, they invest their money up front, we provide them with land, and before you know it, communities are getting up. And ours is actually to make sure that these communities are fully integrated and provide all the services that are needed. And we also agree on the issue of making sure that our developments are properly planned, they are bankable, so that investors can come in. Zimbabwe continues to expand the use of PPPs, institutional investment, and partnerships with regional and continental financial institutions to unlock housing and social infrastructure. We need to make sure that we are sustainable in our developments. We need to make sure that we are paying attention to climate change and coming up with solutions that give us resilience in light of climate change. We are doing wetlands mapping and protection programs. We are also embracing this thing of densification so that we stop the urban sprawl and eating into important agricultural land. Those are some of the, programs that we are following in Zimbabwe, but we stand ready to work with our regional neighbors We stand ready to work with private investors. We stand ready to work with development institutions and other international partners. Our responsibility is not simply to build infrastructure, it is to build places where people can live with dignity and businesses can grow, children can thrive, and communities can withstand the shocks of the future. And I really want to commend the organizers of this platform and want to thank you again for the opportunity to come and share. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We are friends, Tina. Thank you to the Honorable Professor Paul Mavema, Minister of National Housing and Social Amenities from Zimbabwe. I'd like us to now welcome to the stage our final speaker for this session. Before we get into our panel, the Honorable Alice Mwahome, Minister of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development from Kenya. Karibu, Cape Town.
I think we are same height. I refuse to be of less height. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Tembi, Minister for Human Settlement. In Kenya, they call me the Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Public Works, Housing, and Urban Development. Under us, we have adjudication of land and human settlement. So I think I'm rightfully so here, led by your very good presentation. I also want to commend Minister Dean McPherson for really hosting a very successful time here for us, the symposium. I think most of us, I don't speak for them, but from my own experience, I think we have achieved our objective. And the President's opening today, his remarks were fantastic, save that I was afraid to say they are also beautiful faces. You know, we were talking about pretty faces, but I thought they are beautiful faces. So, we are here to talk about, we were asked to talk about shaping the future of the municipal infrastructure. And that's the main theme. And that under that, we discuss or make remarks on securing Africa's socio infrastructure, securing, building safe, resilient and inclusive communities. It's huge. And it is not easy to say that we can expect this task will be small. And when I had the Minister for Human Settlement saying that her department gets upset when she speaks from the heart. Some things have to be spoken from the heart so that people can understand. In Kenya, we don't have we have some municipal areas, but largely they are under the authority of the county governments because we have 47 county governments under our constitution. And the heads of the county governments are elected under universal suffrage, and they are elected as the governors for those regions, the 47 regions, and they draw the budget under the Division of Revenue Bill from the National Assembly. And when we divide at the National Assembly, then the Senate divides that budget among the 47 counties. So they have both executive authority, and they have, I don't know, they also have people's representative authority. So they can make decisions, they can make partnerships, and that was what was expected when we did our constitution, because we were feeling at that time that there was too much concentration of power from the top. I'm saying this so that I can come then to the discussion. In the case for Kenya, therefore, the county governments can plan. The planning authority of their towns, of their county, is with them under our Planning and Physical Land Use Act. But the planning is not happening the way we wanted. And therefore, you can become personal, you can become, you can get worked up because you see that what was expected is not happening as quickly as we should be, because I believe we are all in Africa operating behind time. We are planning and working behind time. Because in my case in Kenya, I have a deficit of 2 million units, housing units. We have huge informal settlements which have not been planned, which have no water, have no sewage system, have no lighting, and people use pit toilets. And therefore, we are looking at a situation where somebody was talking about crisis. I think Africa is operating under crisis. And we must call spade spade so that we start taking governance issues seriously, because when you get the funding, accountability principles must be applied for those funds to reach the people, to be able to make meaningful and complete the projects that you planned to do. This is the first workshop, symposium, conference that I have had that money is not the problem. I don't know, I was feeling like I have gone to many conferences, up to the UN General Assembly, everywhere, COP, what, all this, CSW for women, urban development summits, and every time we are saying the money is not enough. And when it is being planned or sought for, you find that it takes 2-3 years to plan for it. But something came out very good in this conference, symposium, that we must prepare early and prepare well. And we must make this planning, make the projects bankable. You know, that's now banking language. I'm not very good at that. But it means the banks must be able to tick all the boxes correct for you to get the funding. So the funding, yes, may be there. It takes long, so we need to agree that we need to reduce, for us to deal with this theme, we need to reduce the period that we take to plan and to approve. The approving sessions are too many, they take long, they are complicated, the language is complex. I know we can train, and we've been training people who are good in that area, but please, we need to also agree, because the money is there, let's find a good roadmap that is quick and fast to reach the money. In Kenya, we have realized that even when you get the money, and I think it is the same here in South Africa, I'm being careful because I know our partners are here. And I know we have good working relationship with them. But our president has gone ahead or head on to say that we must use a fair yardstick or one yardstick for Africa, for Europe, for America, for everybody who accesses or seek to access the money. This rating of Africa, a risk continent, the discussion must also reach places like this where we have now known the money is there, so that Even an American comes to borrow money, and a Kenyan comes to borrow money. Not a Kenyan, Kenya as a country, with the rich gold resources or mineral resources, with the beautiful beaches, with the seven wonder of the world, the wild beasts, with all these resources, clean water, fresh water. All we need is to know how to store it, how to put the investment in the right place. Good weather, educated population, and name it. So we tick many boxes. I think that building the communities that are inclusive will start there, where I'm saying, because we are maybe underdeveloped country, when you lend us money 3-4 times or 10 times the other partners or the other countries, then we start on the wrong footing. That's not inclusive. Let's speak to that also, even as we look at the frameworks. So therefore, the institutional structures, the legal frameworks, regulatory frameworks, and administrative guidelines must also be able to rise to the occasion, to be able to give the confidence that the partners require for them to give out the money. And therefore, I'm looking at this, they wanted me to speak things which are not my things always. They also manage us. I looked at this subject. If you want to be honest to this subject, the beginning is to say that the financing models are not working as fast as we would like. So we must continuously agree to have new ideas to make it better, even in that aspect. In Kenya, we have found that you need, and this discussion has been in those platforms, you need to look at local solutions to your financing, first and foremost. For that reason, and my brother commended our affordable housing program, as the Minister for Housing, I have received the highest political goodwill. You can never do houses without political goodwill and leadership from the topmost office, and that is the office of the president. The president must be present for you to be able to do housing. Because as we were doing housing, good program, the political opponents will be there to say, why are you doing houses? Why don't you take this money to schools? Who said we needed houses? For example, you'll hear those kind of discussions in Kenya, forgetting that by 2050, the world's 3/4 population will be actually living in our towns. And people, when they move to towns, they have no job. So they can't afford the formal settlements. They will have to live elsewhere, and that's where we call formal settlements. Of course, giving it a good name, because realistically, we call them slums in Kenya. For it to make name, they are slums because they have no facility at all. So if that is the situation, then we must start with our own local solutions to funding. We struggled to have an act of parliament to support affordable housing, where we are doing 200,000 units per year. That is our plan. Basically, we are on course because we have now reached about 270,000 units. In a year, most of them will be complete. Following that, in our pipeline, we have close to 700,000 units. Within these 4 years of His Excellency, the President, or the Kenya Kwanza, now broad-based government. How did we do it? We were able to come up with an act of parliament, the Affordable Housing Act, which has collected money or is collecting money from Kenyans, of course from the pay slip. So, but you be ready, because there will be a campaign and has been there, though that Parliament, the courts, we have been taken to courts, we've litigated, and we have somehow succeeded, and the program is fantastic, and Kenyans have started receiving those homes. Of course, the purchase is very reasonable because we have social, we have affordable, and we have market rates of those houses. And therefore, they are safe, they are secure, and they bring communities because we have the market where is the middle class kind of people. Then you have social, the people coming from informal sector. They are within the same built up area, and the blocks are just maybe separated by 10, 15 meters away. So they are inclusive. And they pay within 25 to 30 years. The deposit is 5% of the cost price, which is fairly subsidized through land, because the land is a major cost in any building. We know that. And therefore, what we are doing with that is to ensure that we build these blocks, these houses, on public land, either county land, but public land, and national government land. And therefore, we are able to knock off 25%. And therefore, the principle of inclusivity comes in. Of course, we have to mind about the weather. We have major projects like the Nairobi River, which has really been like a sewage center. But now we have a major river regeneration or renewal program through the same affordable housing, because as we do that, we'll build houses along the river, away from the riparian, but not far away, so that then you can have also recreation areas with the business enterprises for the informal settlement people, instead of taking them completely away. And we expect that they will also be able to benefit from those houses. So I don't really want to go beyond that. We have a wonderful program funded by the World Bank. I want to acknowledge that, called the Kenya Urban Support Program. It helps to support the improvement of our informal sectors, provide sometimes street lighting, cleaning up, providing the very needed systems of sanitation, within the streets. And of course, KISIP also goes to allowing the owners of informal settlement own land by titling, paying for titling. As a ministry, we also buy land under the land settlement schemes, where we also settle Kenyans that have previously struggled to have land. It's a very complex affair, because there will always be squatters or people who do not have land. And sometimes there are also professional people who move from one settlement scheme to another, until your system is tight enough to be able to identify them and pick them. But sometimes they also use different people or different identifications and then do some games there. I want to maybe conclude and say that I think that the recent enactment for Kenya for the National Infrastructure Fund, and I found out that the South African one, I think, was enacted in 2014. That's quite fast and quite a good time for us. We have just been able to enact the National Infrastructure Fund that will help us deal with then the huge infrastructure needs that we have, the roads, the water, because as we do the housing, build homes, you'll find that the necessary connectivities are not there for water, for sewer system, for electricity, and therefore, we've also known that if you want a stadium, because we might want to host the next World Cup in Kenya, in Africa. So we are talking of stadia. building stadiums, building airports, connecting pipelines, roads that create the necessary corridors between two countries. That may not be easily possible without also local solutions to funding. And our infrastructure fund, though new, has today been able to raise 400 billion Kenya shillings. Maybe that's a crap for Kenya. Ask us how. There are assets that have matured, basically almost idle, or being misused or misapplied. You retire them into the fund. Properties that are idle, the government is not doing anything, landed properties, maybe buildings that can be retired into money to build a road or to build a hospital of national referral. It's not a waste. So the fund will cater for that. Finally, this we have also come up with the wealth fund, which we feel that the future generations may require assurance or security to secure the nation, secure the communities, that even when you turn all these idle maybe assets, you must remain some and put some in accounts or funds that are not accessible for the ordinary day-to-day projects. And I like the idea that we must prepare various projects, many projects, keep them ready so that we can be able to market and take them to the partners, including investment. Our SGR, our next major road, will actually be partnering with the private sector. And I think Kenya is ready and open for serious business, especially with our national infrastructure law in place. You can be sure that we'll be having enough money to be able to do the deal. Trump talks about making deals. When I listened to Ramaphosa, he was very keen about preparedness and accountability, and we support that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the Minister of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development from Kenya, the Honorable Alice Wahome. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've got a little bit of time left to have a quick panel discussion, and I'd just like to welcome onto the stage our two panelists. The first one is Ms. Georgina Smith, CEO, Green Building Council, South Africa. A round of applause for her. And can I please get a round of applause for Thabo Rakoloti, Director General, Africa Regional Center, New Development Bank. I think we should remember that we are focusing on protecting social infrastructure and also making sure that it's sustainable and resilient. And Thabo, I'd like to start with you and perhaps ask the question that sounds simple but maybe isn't. Why do we struggle to protect infrastructure that we already have?
Yeah. No, thanks very much. Yeah. Probably before I respond to the question, just address some of the remarks that the ministers make. The first one from the Minister of Kenya. We from the New Development Bank, this is a new institution that has been set up to finance sustainable infrastructure projects in our member countries. And we hope that at some point you'll also join the NDB and be part of the family itself. When you're talking about the cost of funds in the bank, it's slightly different because everyone is treated the same way. And so we're looking forward to partner with you in the respect of you joining the bank. The Minister of Zimbabwe also mentioned the NDB and the DBSA, and we understand, Minister, that Zimbabwe is also on course to join the NDB, and we look forward particularly to collaborate with yourselves also on the infrastructure, the human settlement infrastructure and other related infrastructure. Minister Smelani, let me also indicate to you that when you spoke about the Lufereng project, this is one project, this is an integrated human settlement project in the province of Gauteng. One of the issues that we had challenges with was precisely around the bulk infrastructure. And all of this talks to project preparation. I mean, the president has been talking about the project preparation. One of the issues that we identified as financiers is that the development is also built on a dolomite site. Therefore, you need to have a dolomite strategy. And on our side, we've been trying to work closely with the city of Joburg just to put project preparation funding in helping you to, just address that particular issue. But when we talk about the integration again, Minister, what we found in that project is that issues of, and I guess this is the silo planning of government, because you're building infrastructure, the top structures, but you find that the schools are not there, or at least being planned. You find that the clinics are not yet being planned. And so it will be good as government plan around this infrastructure, you have that integrated approach in terms of how you can move it forward. And so I thought maybe let me make some of those remarks. On your question that you raised, what we are seeing in many of the projects is that we think about protection as a last resort, and what we need to be do protection of the infrastructure, the resilience of the infrastructure as a last resort. And what we need to be thinking about as we plan, and some of the issues that I've just highlighted purely takes us back to the preparation, because most of the issues, the theft, the vandalism that occurs after an infrastructure has been built is because we have not fully engaged the communities so that they can feel that they are part of the asset that's being created. They need to understand that if they destroy this asset, what does it mean to them? And so we need to be able to speak a simple language. And I'll make an example with the passenger rail PRASA. I mean, we're working with PRASA in financing their signal and telecommunication system to ensure that the trains can move from Pretoria to Mabopane to Leralla to Germiston. One of the issues that we have put in there is also embedding security at early stages. If you look at the recovery of most of the stations, already there's physical security that's being created along the network. I mean, this is a 2,200 network, but certainly you can't have every person along the 2,200 kilometer network. You need to also embed technology in trying to help you to prevent some of the challenges that may arise. But certainly as development financiers, those are the areas that we certainly look into and ensure that the infrastructure that you build, at least you know that it will be protected, it will be operated, it will be maintained for a much longer period of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Georgina, what role does sustainable design play in protecting public assets?
Thank you, Claire, and good afternoon to the honourable ministers and to everybody in the audience. And thank you for including the Green Building Council of South Africa in this conversation. At the GBCSA, we are very passionate about design, Claire, so thank you for that question. I think to use the lens of green buildings and broader sustainable precinct planning, you've got a wonderful nexus of principles that aren't only about sustainability and environmental principles. So if we think about a lot of our sustainable precinct projects that we've done across the country, you've got good governance, you need to create spaces that are livable and walkable, you need to create spaces that allow for economic prosperity, and then obviously you also need to look at the resource efficiency. But those are not just sustainability principles, those are also actually infrastructure protection principles. And that's why I'm really excited to contribute to this conversation today through the lens of the work that we do. So some of you might know this already, but we have over, and by we, I mean the collective we, including professionals like Sutari and other architects and engineers and QSs, we have over 1,500 green and sustainable projects in South Africa. So we've done this, we can do it, we can deliver on it. And I think just in terms of insights to contribute to the design conversation, I think I've got one or two highlights to share and takeaways. So the first is that from a resilience perspective, it always starts with resource efficiency and resource security, which is a fundamental building block to any green building or sustainable precinct project. So you can't have a school if there's no water and lights. You can't heal people in a hospital if you don't have running water. But any green building project always starts with that. It starts with asking the question, how do we take supply, or how do we take demand off the municipal supply? That is literally a starting point for any green building project, is how to reduce pressure on the municipal supply system. And that comes through design, definitely through design. But obviously, we've got a lot of existing stock that would then either fit into infrastructure upgrades, and there you can also manage buildings and social infrastructure a lot better. I think the other insight is that resilience needs to be designed in from day one, because I think many people in this room know this, climate change is not happening in a year's time or 2030 or 2050. I mean, we've seen it in KZN already. We're already getting warnings in Cape Town around another potential day zero with the droughts. There's a lot of economic modeling that has gone into both Africa, sub-Saharan Africa and South Africa around what the predicted climate change is going to be. Designers like Sutari, engineers, architects know how to design for resilience. In fact, any building that wants to get a green stamp from us has to do a resilience assessment. So resilience is a very integral part to the design process. It might have been called a bunch of different things a few years ago, because it's not only about the water and the electricity. It's also about saying, how does this site withstand floods? How does this school withstand a 2-degree temperature increase in 15 years' time, or especially for a hospital, and the HVAC's got to work much harder to then accommodate that. So resilience very much from day one, let's design it in. And then lastly, I think, particularly to the inclusive communities element of social infrastructure, fundamentally, when you create places that are well designed, people value them and people protect what they value. So it's either through an intrinsic need, whether it's water or a school or a clinic, but we've also been able to demonstrate with local data in South Africa, and it is through a commercial lens, obviously looking at the property sector, but there's been a lot of discussion around, PPPs and engaging with the private sector. We've used a lot of data to show that where green buildings are designed well, they are delivering better returns in the long run, and they're actually more resilient to a lot of economic cycles. So yes, design, let's definitely get it right, let's get it baked in, we've got the skills, let's do it.
Thank you so much, Georgina. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we've been pressed for time, so I'm going to have to end it there. Thank you so much, Georgina. Thank you so much, Thabo, and to our ministers as well for contributing to the session. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.